found out this March that Walt Disney Studios was creating a live-action remake of the movie most dear to my childhood self, Mulan. When I was younger, my life revolved around princesses. You know, they were these entities that I could only dream of becoming because, to me, they represented everything synonymous to glamour and perfection in this world. Growing up, I always felt a connection to Mulan because she was the one out of all the other princesses who looked the most like me. In the film, the traditions, the customs, the architecture were all so familiar as they reified my Chinese heritage and told me that it was capable of existing in a way that could be both recognized and beautiful in a country where it wasn't the main one. The emotion that ravaged through my non-Eastern Asian friends and distant social media mutuals, however, was rage. And this was because this colorful, rowdy musical was coming back devoid of music, a certain key character, and a well-loved dragon sidekick. Now, when I first heard this, I was taken aback and I was disappointed, but after a night of digging, I came across an article that explained Disney's decision to take out these aspects as an attempt to represent the true story of Mulan with more cultural and historical accuracy than the animated version did. It seemed plausible to me, and also, back in China, I found out that the people were raging as well, but with excitement, because this was a story that they were so ridiculously proud of that was making it big on the Western screen. And so, because I also value the cultural integrity of the story, I decided to continue showing my support for the film. Now, when the trailer came out in July, I pounced on it real fast, and it was exciting to see my very own Mulan just on my phone screen. But this look at the film also severely dampened the mood of my Chinese counterparts. The reason being that this look at the film included a mashup of Chinese objects that didn't match up with each other culturally, historically, or geographically. For example, it depicted her family living in a structure that was a characteristic of a time that was completely different from the real Mulan's, and a geographic location that was also different from where she would have been. Now, so I read tweet after tweet of Asians on the internet complaining that Disney didn't really seek to honor the beauty of Chinese culture, but rather to feign their respect by throwing in as many Chinese objects as possible. So I'm looking at this, and suddenly both sides of my identity are really against this film that I kind of still want to see. And now, there shouldn't be a singular response from a culture when faced with a relevant issue, but the Chinese outlook on the Mulan movie was the one that I felt obligated to stick to. I wrestled with this idea for a while because my main question was, am I now obligated to boycott this upcoming production simply because if I don't do so, it would show that I too have no respect for my own culture? Now, in August, I took my 7-year-old brother to see the remake of the live-action Lion King. And we were just settling in when the Mulan trailer rose like smoke to the screen, and even though I had seen it on the little rectangle of my phone screen, by the time it arrived, by the time her name appeared in bold swashes of red, there were tears in my eyes. Because disregarding cinematography or quality, that 1.5-minute long video was one of the most beautiful things I had ever seen. There she was, my childhood god, you know, my every aspiration, in which every wandering second I aspire to transform like her into the woman I want to become. It was beautiful because my entire life I had waited for a Chinese actor to be speaking English as the main character in a children's film, and there she was now, perfect even in her imperfections, even in the inaccuracies and the skepticism of the audience and the fury of my homeland. I realized then that despite it all, Disney was incorporating a piece of my heritage in their work, and that in itself was a step. I felt an overwhelming appreciation for this step because our society cannot reach global familiarization without starting somewhere. And that somewhere for me was the fact that the story of a Chinese woman was making its way into America. And so, I've reached two conclusions. First, it's critical that we keep these discussions around historical accuracies alive, as we must all be represented the way that we want to be represented, in a way that best expresses our culture. And this can only be done by educating those who misunderstand. However, we can still have these conversations in a way that is encouraging of the making of these stories that showcase these unheard of stories in the first place. I do believe that as long as both sides approach the conversation willing to analyze both the other side and themselves, it'll make finding the root of the mishap easier, and then in that way we can more easily solve it. My second conclusion is, what's too often overlooked is appreciation for the efforts that we're already making toward global familiarization. Cultural understanding is the acceptance that this experience we're all having is different for every single one of us. And the foundation for that is built by layer upon layers of experiences that bring about familiarity to those who are unfamiliar. My story is an experience, is a cross-hatching of color on the image that is the Chinese-American story. The story of a young girl who wanted to be a princess, but who dug and dug only to find that I sank with the very ground I tried to uncover. And somebody else's stories, somebody else's experiences are another shade, another hue on top of mine as it accents our stories collectively to create our culture in all of its mess and glory. And so, when it comes to being open for improvement and recognizing how far we have come while still upholding those standards for cultural accuracies, we must have to consider all of these aspects. Now, Mulan comes out in March. I hope that the discussions surrounding the cultural ethics of the making of the film will bring us closer to the realization that this story is really just one story. It's our story of the human race that we are trying so hard to understand and make art out of. So we have to be patient. Thank you.